Oh my god.
Good. Hey everybody, welcome to the Unreal Engine Twitch live stream. We are back on Thursdays as normal anyway. So today we've got Jack Porter dialing in from Korea. It is very early or late his time, depending on how you consider it. How's it going, Jack?
Pretty good, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, doing
Good,
well,
good.
doing well. So Chance Ivy, Alexander Pascal, I'm sure you're used to seeing us around from time to time, but this is the first time we've had Jack on the stream. We're going to talk over some of the new mobile features that are showing up in 4.9, as well as a couple of the landscape questions that came in last time. Jack was going to say, I can get those. So if you got questions about landscape too, feel free to drop them
And
in the
foliage.
chat. And foliage.
I prefer foliage questions. Yeah.
He prefers foliage questions, right? Very well. So we'll probably be covering a number of different things that are coming forward in the release of 4.9. So, by the way, just real quick, I know last week we talked about trying to get 4.9 out to y'all this week. Looks like we've found a couple of last-minute blockers that have pushed us until next week. So, I'm sorry, everybody. It's going to be one more week, but you should see it early next week. Keep an eye out for things. We've got Alex is working on the release notes with me for a bit, and Dana and Mike
It's a
Ricker
lot.
and everybody. It's
Yeah.
there's a lot heading your way.
They're very extensive. Like, it's
Yeah.
some really good stuff coming.
All right, so let's hop over to the news if we can and get started on all that. Great. So we had the August Game Jam results last week, and we're just got the announcement up for the September one. It's going to be kicking off 2 weeks from today, so we're trying to give you all a little bit more time to prep for them. I know a lot of people will say, hey, I wish I knew about this beforehand, and so we're like, great, let's try to get out there as soon as we can. If you didn't catch on yet, we try to aim for the second Thursday of every month anyway. This lets some of the people at Epic participate if they want to, just on the other free Fridays or whatever else like that, as well as whenever it rolls into the holiday seasons like Christmas and Thanksgiving here in America. We're able to continue the jams and the review cycle without having to stop them for those two holidays. So the announcement post is currently right up on the forums. It should also be on the community tab. Basically, you got 3 days. It's the whole weekend to work through, build the coolest game you can in Unreal Engine, and compete for epic swag. So swag packs have been sent out. We're actually just mailing, I think.
Yeah,
some of
actually,
the older ones.
you can't.
You're wearing one of the shirts right now.
Bam, check that
Boom,
out.
Look at
Yeah.
that. So yeah, we'll get customized shirts sent out to you all. Again, Philip, thanks for the design.
Yeah, really cool stuff.
And those are almost caught up. We've still got a couple. Oh, there it is! Yay! Before and boo-ray! Awesome. Anyway, so we're almost caught up on all of those too. I don't really think we're waiting for a whole lot more at this point.
No, I think we've got mostly everybody. Just maybe one person
Cool.
or two people in May, and that's about it. But yeah, we're coming along. And if you're interested in September, going ahead and hop in this forum thread, because we have people forming teams now, and you
Yep.
want to strike while the iron's hot.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of
There's
people in here.
tons
There's a
of teams.
First, second, and third posts in here too. So it's people that are like, hey, just now coming in. So
some returning champs
yeah,
too.
we
so
might see some really great new content, new styles, a lot of regulars, and yeah, it's always a lot of fun. So participate if you feel so inclined. All right. So next up, this is something that we've been working on for quite some time. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit
There
for
we go.
everybody.
Yep.
So Tom, as you all know, has been working with us on a number of different content examples. He had the survival game project that kicked off last spring, and it went through the midsummer. Since then, we had the ARC modding announcement, as well as the ARC mod contest that kicked off. You can download ARC from the Unreal Engine launcher now, and we've had numerous questions about how do I make mods for my game, or how do I make my game moddable? How do I add mod support to my Unreal Engine 4 game? And so Tom has been working with us and the engineers here at Epic, putting together a lot of the kind of do's and don'ts to get started. Since a lot of this is still kind of early at this point, it's a little bit more technical, but he's got up on his site right now kind of a quick guide as to get started, all the check boxes to hit, and everything you can start moving on today. I wanted to call this out. We're going to do like a bigger announcement about this in a few days, but it's moving over to the wiki, so it'll be like kind of brought up under our documentation. There'll be a project that's associated as well. And so, yeah, look out for more information about that. We're really excited to drop this out there. This is the first in many steps to provide new content specifically for mod support in Unreal Engine games. So I love this. I am so excited about this.
I've been so hyped since ARC mods started that
Yeah.
it's like it's all mods now.
Well, that's like, I want to take this and start working over the weekend and add mod support to other projects the community's built, right? Like, and just see what I can get going on. So definitely take a look at that. And a lot of you have been asking, gotta get some water. Well, a lot of you have been asking about when we're going to announce some new Unreal Dev grants. And
No.
yeah, we've been putting this together for a little bit. We've chosen a number of, I think it's 10 educational Dev grant recipients. So these are all people that have been really driving I guess education around the engine, whether it be training people how to do it one-on-one, teaching at schools. There's a lot of familiar faces in here. Some people may even be in the chat. I know a lot of you guys know James Butcher, Aram Cookson, and Alaucine, and Rama, of course.
Yeah.
Marcos Romero, Cantata Studios, Tesla. So, and then there's a few teachers in here like Cynthia and Christiana. So, yeah, really excited about this. Really, really humbled by all the incredible work that these educators have done over the last years, even since launch. Some of these people, I mean, a lot of this stuff is free too. You know,
Oh
like
yeah,
people
that's what the
people make
coolest
these
part is.
assets, or this content, and just give it out for free, just for the sake of the community and just sharing information. So congratulations to all the recipients.
Yeah, congratulations. I'm really glad that we got to go through and do a not straight up, you're doing a game, so we can show that these grants are for a wide variety of projects relating back to Unreal. So yeah, I'm glad that we're doing this for books and education stuff. It's great.
Absolutely. And look out for more announcements coming soon. You know, it's been a little bit since we made the last one in I think June or July, and excuse me, a lot of you have been asking me about when we're actually going to do some more announcements, and so you're going to see some more things open up over the next few weeks and months. So keep on submitting. There's the form on the website. If you're working on something really great, let us know about it. There's people ask, when's is the fund gone? No, fund's not gone. The program's going to be around for a long time. If you submitted a few months back and you haven't heard back from us yet, and your project's made some significant progress, make sure to go ahead and ping us again, shoot us, let us know of the awesome, great work that you're working on. So congratulations again to everybody.
Yep, good job.
And talking about ARC mods, I wanted to point out that we do have, if you're going to participate in their mod contest, or you just want to start modding an Unreal Engine 4 game, ARC Survival Evolved, we've added the modding section underneath our forums, the ARC Survival Evolved specifically, and they've got some sub-forums set up. We're working on some of the visuals here to make it just a little bit more clean for everybody, but what's cool about this is here's a place you can find other teams that are working on, or other developers, modders, players that are working on ARC mods. Kind of organize with them and see if you can hop into their contest that they kicked off with Alienware last week. What's cool about this too is all of those devs are in here. You'll see Jesse Rapsack, we've had on the stream a couple times. They've got their own even private ARC moderators too. Some guys from the community are in here working out too. And
they're pretty cool about feedback. So
yeah, absolutely. This is a great place to interact with those developers, and yeah, build really great things for a really great game.
Yeah, make good friends.
Totally. And let's see. Oh yeah, so back to education as well, and SIGGRAPH is now over, and we've had the Boy and His Kite won the real time interactive award, but we had this educational workshop there that Lewis put on with a number of other educators, and if you're looking at doing training for, if you're looking at earning dev grants for doing training on, no, if you're looking at doing training on Unreal Engine or just teaching others, there's some really great content inside of here via slideshow. There's a number of the slides that were given at that event. You can go here directly and download them and kind of check it out. So I definitely encourage you to do that if you are looking at training others on how to use the engine. There's a lot of good info in there. And then also at SIGGRAPH, just going over some of the news. You might have seen this in the community tab. Our very own wonderful Nick Whiting, their VR lead outside of this office over in Seattle. He gave an interview while he was there. There's just a lot of really great info in here that he gives about state of VR, what we think about immersive experiences, how he got involved, what's exciting, all that kind of stuff. It's just him candidly chatting about VR. So if you're into VR, this is a really great read. Nick's a really smart dude. He's been doing this for quite some time. He's super passionate about VR, as most everybody here at Epic is. But
he's basically the master of VR here, though. Like
pretty much.
That's like his job, really.
Yeah. He's doing really great work, and so leading up to Oculus Connect, I figured I would mention that one as well.
Yeah.
And another events news too. I wanted to remind everybody that Fortnite just left the building and headed out to PAX, the community team that is. they are out there, on the floor handing out swag. So follow their Twitter. It's Fortnite game. They'll be on the floor hanging out, so you should be able to find those guys. I think it's Will and Wes. I'm not really sure who else made it out there, but those are the two that are out there. So find, Will Kinsler. Everybody knows Will Kinsler. You can just look out for him and find him. And also, if you're at PAX and you're working on a UE4 game, from Engine side, we mentioned it last week, I think, but Joe Kreiner's going to be there. Yep, there he is.
Yeah, look for the beard.
Yep, that beard. You know the man.
Yeah,
You've seen him
go
on
get
here
his
before.
card.
He's got just the right level of snark. This is our head of licensing for America. So if you're showing your game at PAX, definitely try to find Joe, or even reach out to us. Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter and say, hey, come by and see us, because he'll be out there, sending us updates from the floor and meeting people.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Dana and myself won't be there right now. We're working through some other things, but yeah, great. And just one reminder, one more thing, 4.9 is still in the way. I wanted to just reiterate that. It's it's been pushed back, but we're going to see it hopefully very early next week. All right, Community Spotlight, what you got?
Community Spotlight. All right, let's
let you drive.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right. Let's put this thing on the thing. All right, full screen. So I'm not going to play through the entirety of this, but just to give you guys an idea. So the first thing I want to show off here is called Them and Us. I found it on the forums earlier, and it's really cool. Like a lot of people from a lot of different companies coming together. One of those deals, making a little team to create. I'm just going to skip in here so you get the idea. To create a kind of Resident Evil style game. And it even kind of gets into some of the details that they're working on. But you see how they have like the Resident Evil camera work and all that. I thought that was just kind of cool. The big throwback to the you don't need a million zombies to feel like you're surviving kind of thing. It's just
sometimes just getting here in the mornings, surviving.
it's the survival. And then they have some character art and models. And that's up on the forums
usually
as well.
Here go ahead and pull it up.
Yeah,
actually, I think I have it open in a tab for you already.
Thank you.
You are
It is
welcome.
so considerate.
Pop that. Yeah, look at that. Yeah.
Oh.
Usually here like us and them, like us versus them. But this,
Yeah,
is
this is
them
them
and
versus us.
So maybe it's putting like a
some really nice concept
focus
stuff.
on them. Maybe there's more of them, but
Yeah.
you really don't know. Super shiny. Cool.
Yeah, really neat stuff there.
Oh, they have it up on Steam Community. Is that a green light or?
Yeah, they've got. I want to say they've already got. Yeah, this one's on
cool.
the.
Yeah, so we're currently on Steam Greenlight.
Greenlight.
Got it. So if you're into survival horror and
like
games with all kinds of mood.
Yeah, that old school survival horror, not that like here's waves and waves of zombies. Survival horror with quotes. All right, let's see here. Next up on the list is The Mammoth, a cave painting. It's a Ludum Dare. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I know it's like I've heard it a million times. Ludum Dare entry.
By Jaeger or Yager.
By Jaeger or Yager. We actually had like a
Pretty
minor
different.
debate over that, and the Americans agreed it's Yager, or Jaeger, that was it, yeah, deal with it. Really cool stuff. Got a video of that over here. But they did a cool time-lapse video. And I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's 10 minutes, but they actually, like flashes up really quick. But they have
look
like
how fast they're programming.
Yeah, oh my gosh. This is like CSI levels of hacking.
We didn't give the whole like epilepsy clause on the chat.
I'll exit out of that.
No, you're good.
But yeah, if you watch that video, they just show you basically a speed run of them making a game.
Do we have like the end result? Like if we hop to the end of that video?
Oh yeah.
I just want to see kind of what they ended up with.
That's a good point.
Develop a time lapse.
Oh.
Lots of windows.
Let's
Lots
see.
of cooking.
Package. I love it. You get to see them packaging and everything.
Yeah. Oh
No.
wow.
No, they unfortunately didn't seem to have any accessible videos
So if you
for
check out the video on the forum.
Yeah, the video. This one is just going to be like madness, but it is a really impressive looking title when you actually get to take a look at the images from it, which are pretty cool. So it actually has like that old cave painting style, and you play as the mammoths and wander around, and it's not flashing before your eyes at 100 miles an hour. But all right. So the last item that we have is D-Orbit, which didn't see a video for it on here.
640. So UDK
But
3.5.
Yep.
4 to 4.8.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I thought this was a really cool one because he had converted up, and you can see that the He's got some like
Progress
a few
and change.
before and
Oh,
after.
I see that
yeah, so
UI
you can see like
layover.
the older stuff is up there, and then as you get down, eventually like
I'm having some strange
okay.
crunch flashbacks.
Yeah, those UDK days. Yep. So this is a really cool one
cool.
too.
So you can check it out here.
And then there is a.
Okay.
Yep. There's a nice. It's already available for
cool.
$7,
Oh,
which
right
is a
on.
pretty good deal for
So
a
it does
nice.
have a couple videos in here too.
Yeah, it got some pretty pretty nice like stuff.
Screens. Cool.
Yeah.
D-Orbit. And who's the developer on here? Let's see.
Hmm?
Does it show?
Oh yeah. So the developer is Midnight 640,
Midnight 640.
which
Cool.
is I think the
Yep, same name
same
here.
forum handle. So it's just I think it might be lone develop. I couldn't say exactly
Great.
how many people. He didn't mention it, but he does. Sorry, he does have a minor breakdown of what all he encountered and like when he decided to switch over. And that's what I really like is when people write up their whole story and we get to read how a developer went from point A to point B and became who they are now.
Yeah, I think that there's something really cool about those UDK stories too, right? Like it's the tool change. Actually, I think I might need you to drive in a second.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
The tool changed, pretty substantially between the two engines, and I know there's a lot of people that didn't want to make the jump, whatever. But you see, like the Ether One guys,
Yeah.
Bacon Man team,
Bacon Man.
There's a number of people that made the switch, and because of Blueprints specifically, they were able to do a lot of their interactions very, very quickly. Especially coming from Unreal Script, right? Like people were like, "Oh, it took me 6 months to write all these things in Unreal Script." And they ended up doing that like in something like 6 weeks, right?
Yeah,
So
they kind of come in with that like I already know
400%,
this, and
4%
then,
efficiency, right?
yeah,
Moving
yeah,
over. So
and then they get to that end of the swing of things, and they're like, oh man, I'm so glad I actually made the switch. It's really
Yeah.
worth it.
that's totally great.
Yep.
So, all right, well, congratulations everybody on the Community Spotlight. Remember, if you want to be highlighted on our stream, reach out to us in some way. You can
Yeah.
find us on Twitter, find us on Instagram, find us on the forums, find
Yeah.
us on YouTube. We're kind of everywhere. There's most places we could be. We're here on Twitch. Drop it in the chat. I always read the logs afterwards. I know what you're saying. So if we're working on something great, find one of us. Show it to us. We'd love to show you off if we can. We're always super inspired, super humbled by all the incredibly talented developers out there. So cool. All right. Let's
Feature
kick over to-
presentation.
yeah, let's kick it over to Jack real quick. Just a quick disclaimer. Well, two things, I guess. It's 3 a.m. Jack's time, so he's a super trooper hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Wanting to chat with us. Jack is engine dev and support lead out at our Korea office, and he's been doing quite a bit of the work on the mobile stuff here. Since he's half a world away, we're going to try to drive some of the computer features here, like while he's kind of talking through some of them. And so, yeah, if there's a little bit of awkwardness there, that's probably because I'm kind of awkward. So anyway, with that, how's it going, Jack?
We'll do our best with a 5,000-mile long
That's right.
keyboard and mouse cable, right?
Yep. Yeah, I got a USB cord just hanging out the door right now. It's heading your way. Hopefully nobody.
Man, the lag's
steps on it.
terrible.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So yeah, we had a number of things coming out in 4.8. I know Mike mentioned, like dynamic shadows and characters, dynamic
4.9, you mean?
4.9, yeah, sorry. Dynamic
Yeah.
point lights, decals, things like that. So yeah, I mean, like I don't know. I don't know where you want to start. I know you've got a number of notes that you sent
Sure.
over to us. There's a lot to cover, so
Yeah.
I'll just let you go at it, right?
Sure thing. So yeah, last week you guys did a summary of all the new features in 4.9. There's a couple of things that you missed. One of them was about Foliage. I don't know if you want. Should we talk about that first, and then I'll get into the mobile stuff?
Yeah, sure, if you'd like to.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a question from chat about doing blueprints with Foliage, and kind of the way you guys interpreted it was, and probably maybe what the user was asking, was to be able to, I guess, drag a blueprint in and then paint that blueprint as Foliage, right? And that isn't something we can do in 4.9, but what we can do instead of that is we can blueprint the Foliage class itself that gets used when rendering the foliage. And that gives you pretty much all of the benefits. So I guess the kind of thing you'd want to be able to do when you have blueprints with foliage would be to, have them interact with the player, be able to shoot trees and have them get destroyed, that kind of stuff.
Got it.
And you just need to think about the way you go about it slightly differently. Instead of building, a single tree and making it fully blueprinted, you need to build a blueprint that can deal with more than one instance of tree at any one time. So what you need to do is you need to create a blueprint class I mean, do you guys want to follow along quickly with this?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
I'll hop into it.
All right, you got it.
Yeah. All right,
Chances
So
are.
yeah, just in the content browser, right click and create a new blueprint,
Yep.
and then right down the bottom, it'll be one of the last options for the class type. For the blueprint parent class, you want to use a Foliage instance static mesh component should be available there. You guys see that?
Foliage instance static mesh component. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So these are the components that the Foliage system uses, and all instances get shoved into these things. And there are a couple of events. I should create one here so I can talk you through this one.
You can follow along as well.
That would be easier. Okay. So
You'd be like higher, higher, lower, lower.
We could do a screen share across the Earth. I'm sure that won't lag up massively.
oh, that's going to work well. Yeah. So excuse me while I look off camera here. Foliage. Yep. Okay, so there are some events there. There are some specific ones for instance take damage. If you right click, you can add them, like for take damage. You see those?
Add instance. Let me see if I can find it.
I'll make your window bigger too.
I have apply damage. Apply.
No, they're all applying. They're not events, those ones.
Gotcha. Yeah, let me see. Let me pull up my palette. Where are ya? There we go.
Just a second. Hold on.
You say instance take damage?
Yep. On instance take damage. There you go.
Boom. Okay.
No.
Okay, there's radial and there's point, right? So
Do I need
you
to
can
bind
just
this?
bind it.
Yeah, go.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so this is point damage. If you were to connect this, you could react to when the player is shooting or whatever, and that will actually you're binding the event instead, and you actually want the event itself.
Yeah, you want to.
Okay.
Just drag it in. Yeah.
Drag it in from where?
Yeah,
from over here.
from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I cannot see it.
Does this blueprint have the component we need?
It should. This is the correct one, right?
No, there won't be any components there because you're actually blueprinting the component itself rather than an
I
actor.
see.
The parent class is correct.
Okay.
We said we'll do it live, and we've fallen at the first hurdle.
It happens.
It was all right, and then suddenly.
Okay. Anyway, those events, they're specific, and unlike the actor events you get on take damage or on radial damage, they'll also give you the instance that was hit.
Yeah, I'm not finding it in this list.
You're not seeing that there.
No.
Okay.
We can assign the on instant stick point damage, but.
I should be binding a new event though.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to compile? Maybe.
No, you shouldn't need to.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got my blueprint up here. I'm going to do the same thing. Woohoo!
Very new features, everyone.
Live.
It's usually at this point where the chat's like yelling at us, "Do the thing! You're missing the box."
Nope.
right
This
there."
time they're not really. They're not making. I mean, they're making fun of us, but.
They do that all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. The easiest thing to do for now is just drag off begin play there of that event, and then do assign on instance take point damage.
So I wasn't crazy. Oh, look, Katatis is agreeing with me.
Assign on
Katatis Studios,
instance.
thank you.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yay.
crazy. Cool.
Okay.
I do know
So-
Blueprint.
Yeah. So at startup, we're just assigning to that event.
Okay.
And then the important stuff is down the bottom, and the damage amount and who instigated it and where it was hit and all that stuff is the same as regular damage.
Got it.
But there's that extra property there, which is the instance index, the first property there.
Yeah, it drops out, and this is given by the foliage.
So it'll be a number like 0, 1, 2. It'll be some random number corresponding to the index that you've been hit. So if you drag off that event itself, the top one, and then you can do like update instance location, just update. the update instance transform. That's right.
There we go.
And then drag the instance index as well across from there.
Yep.
You could do something like
move it.
You could move it, or you could set its scale to 0, which will hide it. You can actually remove instances as well, but
that's tricky.
Can you?
If you
Sorry, go ahead.
So for example, imagine you're playing a game where like you've got some explosion or spell, and you want to destroy the tree temporarily, and then it's a multiplayer game, so it's going to be ongoing. You want to have that tree come back to life later. You could just set its scale, so its transform scale to 0.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a new instance transform there. You can connect a make transform node to that to actually set the scale and location. Just right-click in the blank area and do a
right here,
make transform. Yep.
You can
make
also
transform.
like you can also like break
pull back. Yep. I might be able to.
And connect that return value. Yeah. So you could set the scale to 0.
Yeah.
And that will just hide the instance, and then later you could restore that scale to 1 or to whatever value it used to be, and that will restore the instance, and you can bring it back to life. So the period of time while it's being hidden, you could spawn like a real actor in its place with exactly the same static mesh, with same rotation and same transform and same scale.
Yeah.
And you could do any animation. You could change the material out on it. You could do pretty much anything you could do to an actor. So have it really interacting with the player, and then sometime later you can destroy it again. You can destroy the actor and put the original foliage back.
Can you use this index to look up the same information here?
Yeah, there's a get instance transform break off there. You just get instance transform.
Ooh, fantastic!
That will tell you.
Fancy. And the world space checkbox. Like that.
So you can,
if you want that in world space, you can do that.
So that way you can grab that info and then share it. This is basically like a lookup once you have that index. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, provide that instance index will be consistent unless you go and start removing instances in the middle, and that's going to shift everything to the left one. So unless you can avoid it, there's not really any great benefit to actually removing a handful of instances out of a million pieces of grass.
Because you basically want to throw all those into some array as a lookup, and then do all that array nastiness to try to keep
there'd be a lot of logic you'd have to do to keep track of that, old to new mapping and stuff. So I recommend just hiding stuff.
Video games.
It's all cheating.
Yeah, sure.
It's
all
just
cheating,
making stuff up.
Yeah. So you can delete all those point take damage related stuff. You get rid of all that stuff.
Right.
And we'll bind one more event. Yeah.
Cool.
The other event is the radial damage. So imagine you got splash damage or an explosion. Yeah. Apply. Bind.
Yeah. Assign it.
Take radial damage.
There you go.
Okay. So this is kind of a bit different to the way it works for components. Normally, when you apply radial damage, and you've got a bunch of components on an actor, the base actor system goes off and it tries to find the most relevant component, and it just routes the radial damage to that one component of your actor. And if you've got a million trees over a large area, that doesn't really make any sense. So what this does is it behind the scenes, it filters only the instances that are inside the radius of your explosion, and it puts all of those in an array. And there's an instances array there, you can see. And there's also a damages array, which gives you the amount of damage. So the fall off could be different for each. The array index there will be the instant. The array element there will be the instance index.
Got it. So you loop through those and then tell it to go, right?
That's interesting.
And the damages will be different. So if you set off an explosion in a forest, the nearby trees are going to be damaged a lot, and the distant ones. So we already calculate that fall off for you, so you don't have to do any extra work. So.
I wonder if you could use this for even like, I don't know, with morph targets to like have like an impact underwater to make seaweed kind of move away from a specific area.
Yeah, absolutely. You can apply some. Again, you have to find some way to animate or to get that information back to those instances. So you might want to just hide all of those instances and then and
Yeah,
then
spawn
spawn
new
some
ones.
actors in
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
place
spawn like
that
the blowback
do
ones.
some
and-
physics. Yep.
And then notify when it's over to replace with the other ones back up.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Cool.
Okay. And then there's if you just drag off the output of the custom event there, just the
This one?
not the binding, the actual event itself. Yeah. There's a remove instances function.
Mm-hmm.
I know that'll remove a single instance, but there's a multi version that takes the entire array. So if you just want to destroy all of the instances that are damaged, then
Yeah.
That makes sense too.
So
sorry, that's the single version you have there, but there's also a multiple version.
So lawn mowing simulator done.
yeah, lawn mowing. Oh, that's great. Okay, awesome.
Yep. Okay. So anyway, once you have one of these things, you might just want to just compile that and you don't need to save it. Just get rid of the window.
All right.
If you then go back to the main editor, so open the Foliage tool, the next one, that one, and drag any static mesh from the content browser in there.
Cool. Hang on.
We should have starter content.
We should have.
Yeah,
something?
instead of
Yeah.
Where's that?
yeah,
There we
just
go.
static mesh. There.
There we go.
Let's do.
There's even a tree there. Whatever. Yeah.
No trees. Come on.
Too
Okay, so
obvious.
click on that.
Angel statue.
Click on that, and then there's an option now under the mesh, which is the component class.
Right here.
Very first option there. Yep. Click on that, and you can see your new blueprint there. So
Yep.
the Foliage instance static mesh component is the default, and that has just no behavior at all.
Allowed us to use this, and this overrides that and give it that behavior.
Yep.
Cool.
And down the bottom here, there's some stuff about collision. You need to enable collision if you want to get damage events.
Right.
So the collision, it's currently no collision. Just do the drop-down box there.
Yeah.
And
will we go to
you
the
want
same
block
thing, or?
all dynamic.
Okay.
Or overlap all dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. It doesn't make a
Well,
difference.
well, it does. Block will also prevent the player walking into it. So if it's grass, you don't want to do that. Overlap.
Yeah. Right. So it
So
still
if you wanna
it
shoot
still
grass, don't
behaves
go through it.
it still behaves the same though as most other collision, right? There's no special
There's nothing
considerations
special.
there. Cool.
Cool. So yeah, that's one way you can use blueprints to add some more interactivity to your foliage. You're in ES2 preview mode, which is why the
Yeah.
which is why the foliage tool doesn't work very well with the mobile preview mode.
That's why I am painting the statues into the floor there.
If this had a weapon, you would be able to test removing the instances,
But alas.
but
Cool.
alas, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we didn't really
Okay,
touch
so
on hardly
that's a
any
slight
of that.
detour. It's not what we were planning to talk about, but it came up right at the end of last week's session, so I thought, hey. Oh, and a shout out to John Alcatraz, who's using these hierarchical instance static mesh components. He's pretty active on Answer Hub, calling me out with bugs. So he's been iterating with a lot with doing things to foliage instances in blueprints and making sure there's no flicker or whatever. So
That's great.
unfortunately 4.9 has a little the LOD calculation for updating instances is one frame behind. So if you've got a forest of trees and you're making all your trees grow or something, by updating their instance scale, the LOD is incorrect for one frame, and it's really obvious if you've got kind of any kind of detail on your trees. So
Got it.
unfortunately, we didn't fix that for 4.9, but I'm going to try and get into either 4.9.1 if we're allowed. Otherwise, it'll be in 4.10. And I also posted to Answer Hub a link to the fix in GitHub if anybody's using source code that can easily apply the fix.
Yeah, perfect. If you want to drop that out, I mean, even in the forum afterwards that we did the announce for,
Sure,
also GitHub
I
link,
can
yeah.
point. I can point anybody to where that is if
Great.
they're interested in this.
Definitely.
Okay,
Right.
so we'll get onto mobile.
Yeah, and thanks for covering that. We really didn't get much chance to touch on it. Is there a monkey over there?
There's a
Great.
monkey.
I
there's a
gu- I
monkey.
guess-
Oh.
Oh, the monkey.
No. Shelly's
He was
dropping
there and he was
monkeys on
gone.
us. Anyway, so yeah, we didn't really get to touch on it much last week. We wanted to get a
So
follow-up.
yeah, I'm in
stream.
charge of landscape and foliage and mobile now. So these are things that I guess come up from time to time, and you guys are like, "Yeah, we better ask Jack about that," and nothing ever comes of that. So,
And they're like,
so I'm
"Where's
here.
Jack?" Oh, Jack is way asleep right now.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, just ping him. He'll wake up. Whatever.
Yeah, occasionally I wake up and there's like, you know, hey Jack, are you around? Instant message, hangout
Yeah.
request on my phone. No.
No. Right.
Okay, so we're doing a few things with mobile. The first thing is what's in 4.9, and this was so I'm out of the Korean office, and the Korean guys are a little bit more than the West, and also China are trying to make a bit more high-end mobile games. The very large format phones, you know, the Galaxy Notes and stuff are very popular here. So there have been a couple of popular kind of hack and slash dungeon type games. There was one made with UE3 called Blade that did really well here. Anyway, they're trying to make these a little bit more sophisticated games, you know, with real lighting and real 3D graphics, obviously. So UE4 is in a good position for that, but we were missing a few little bits of functionality to actually make a shippable game, and even stuff that we had in UE3 for Infinity Blade. And UE3 was not using physically based rendering and lighting, so it had all these kind of hacky. I don't know, anybody who used UDK will remember from mobile that we had this entirely different material system.
Oh yes.
Which made it fast, but it made it kind of everything you knew about materials was out the window.
Yeah, and setting that up was no easy task.
No, absolutely.
You get like 45 minutes through a cook, and it's like, can't find material for asset X, and you're like, well, I guess I'm waiting for the rest of it. See what else I missed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had, you couldn't use the material graph, so it's all just the, you know, the hard-coded set of things we came up with that we needed for Infinity Blade, really. So anyway, for mobile on UE4 is much more general, but like I said, we're missing a few of these this functionality that we had. One of them was character shadows. So currently up to 4.8 on mobile for UE4, if you wanted character shadows, you could turn on, you know, a fully dynamic path, and you could get, you know, CSM, and it would look pretty much like PC, and it would run on the very latest smartphone, and that's about it. You know, run on an iPhone 6 or a Galaxy S6. So we've added modulated shadows, which are kind of fake shadows. They're not physically realistic. They're just kind of, the player casts a shadow and it makes the stuff underneath them a bit darker. But that's the kind of trade-off that you need to make for mobile because of the reduced power of the device. So using enabling modulated shadows allows you to have, you know, a fully statically lit world using light mass, really high quality pre-computed lighting, but then add a character shadow on top of it to ground the characters and improve the look of the game. And so the way you enable these things is just a directional light, and there's a checkbox to say cast modulated shadows along with cast dynamic shadows, directional only lights. And there's a second option there, which is the modulated shadow color. So it's just kind of a gray or black color that you want your shadow to add to the scene.
Yeah, and I think that's just to clarify on that. It's for directional lights only. That's the thing that's casting these shadows, right? So,
so if you don't have a directional light in your scene, you could add a fake directional light that doesn't cast static lighting and that is only used for, or that has a lighting brightness of 0. It'll still cast a shadow.
Hang on, Alexander's trying to pull up those settings.
I was trying to move this and I grabbed the thing. Okay, here we go. So let's see here. I'll type it in. Which of the
modulated and dynamic, correct?
There we go. So it's under light, cast modulated shadow,
and check it.
We don't have any characters.
Enable that, and then that's a color checker. You could
shadow color.
that color picker there is the color of your shadow. So if you want a purple shadow.
Yeah, we'll give it kind of like let's give it some little Fortnite.
Jack, you're talking to the same guy that flew a ship into the sun on a live stream.
I don't understand what colors are. You see, I'm just kind of a crazy person who shows
up. That looks like a really cool planet. I'm like, it's really bright for a planet.
So you'll need to add a skeletal mesh or something that casts a dynamic shadow in there. I don't know if there is one in that.
There might not be one in this project, but you get the gist.
Yeah, just.
And then that's static, but where filter to static. So knock static off your filter and add.
I see. Yeah. That's why I can't see anything.
Add.
I think there is a skeletal mesh in there.
Yeah, just filter if I shut. Yeah, skeletal there.
Scuttle.
Bam.
There's one.
No.
Nope. There's not any.
Nope.
Nothing. Nada.
Well, I'll just do the old.
Oh, well, the other thing you could do is just drag that statue in somewhere, and you could set it to movable. That should also.
Oh yeah.
Oh, look at the lighting on that. You can see because it's movable already, so you can see it's got that. Look at the.
There's just in the background you can see the shadow.
Yep. And we're set right now to mobile preview on the top there.
Wow.
Jack, if we ran this right now in mobile
look at
preview,
that.
will we
Look
see
at that
that?
shadow.
Like compiled?
You would, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Really nice. That's a good way to stylize that.
It seems something else is also
that
casting a
preview.
shadow on it. Yeah.
Let's see how long it'll have to take to compute these shaders for mobile. Did we already run it once?
Yeah, I think I ran
I
it
think
once.
we ran it once.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
That's all right. We have like 30 Titan X's in this thing. We've got
Sun
it.
Temple. 30 Titan X's in there?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
No, the power of 30.
Okay, it's just behind you, I think. Woo, mouse with mobile preview. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, gotta do the
Oh,
thing.
great.
Oh wow, that does look really cool in mobile preview.
I believe.
You believe, yeah. So you can see there, you're casting into a bright area and a dark area, like a shadowed and a non-shadowed
like the two
area.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not physically realistic. You'd expect, if there was a real light source casting a purple shadow, it would blend between, or the dark area would be the same as the shadow.
Right.
That's kind of the trade-off you make for making it quick.
Got it. So yeah,
Be aware of
as everything in mobile, kind of run through and iterate until it feels and looks right and is performant, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a small screen. The guy's you're not going to see it, from arm's length.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Okay. The other thing we have is mobile dynamic point lights. So these are.
There we go.
Here, I'll show you it running on device. This is a build of Sun Temple I have with her.
Yeah. And these are specifically for throwing fireballs down hallways.
Exactly. That's all they're for. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So the rest of that scene has fully static lighting. You've got light mass and high quality stuff going on there, but this allows you to spawn, if you're doing a spell effect or shooting a rocket down a hallway or whatever, fireballs. Yeah. You can definitely it definitely adds a lot more dynamic kind of feel to any particles or whatever you've got. So these are enabled by default. If you go to your settings, your project settings,
There we go.
at the very top, the project settings, the second option there. Yeah.
Ah, I see.
Yep. Under rendering.
There you go. Ton of little options.
There's a mobile section that's right at the top.
Yep.
Okay. There's an option for how many dynamic point lights you want to have.
Oh, right on.
Ooh.
And I'll talk about the second option in a second. So if you set that to 0, it will... okay, so every time you do a different kind of rendering effect, you need to use a different shader. And we want to have our shaders built beforehand, because if you're suddenly... you fire a fireball down the hallway and it stops to generate a new version of the shader, that's not going to be a great gameplay experience. So if you have these things enabled, we need an extra version of the shader, the point lights enabled as well as the point lights disabled version of the shader, and suddenly all your shaders will be duplicated. So if you're not using point lights, you're going to pay a bit of a cost for your materials in your package size. So if you set that number to 0, things will work exactly as they always did.
Yeah, so it is just, to be clear there, it's an added cost on the performance whenever it's actually happening, and at the same time, you're going to add more maps, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
so we don't want to pay that cost when you're not shooting fireballs down the hallway.
Right.
In those occasional time when there are no fireballs going on. So that's why we have the non-fireball version of the shader as well. There's another option below that. You probably want to leave that as the default. If you turn that option off, it will make versions of the shaders for 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, and 4 lights. So things will go crazy. But if you have a game which makes heavy use of dynamic lighting, turning that option off will make your shaders in your package size, in your iPhone or Android package size larger. Quite a lot larger, because it'll build versions for 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Got it.
But each of them will be a bit more efficient over the shared version. The shared version is kind of, do I have any lights? Yeah, I do. How many do I have? One. Do I have one more? Two. So it's got to keep track of how many it's
Right.
calculated.
Yeah, it's a little manager for that as opposed to this just kind of like open the floodgates.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And the only thing you need to do to enable these, which they're enabled by default, to use these is just to spawn a point light and set it to be dynamic, and then as dynamic mobility. I'm sorry, movable mobility, not dynamic, movable. There you go.
Now,
Like that. But that's a directional light you have there, but it'll only work for point lights, not for directional lights.
Is that a directional?
It says point right here.
This is a directional. This is the shadow casting one you just created.
No, I think it's
No, this hot pink one is.
Oh, it is
the
a point light. Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
I
right.
see.
He's making other, you know.
It's okay. It's 3 a.m.
that's
Jack.
what-
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's where the purple shadow is coming from. The purple light and the purple shadow. I
Yeah.
see.
So
Yeah.
so that's what I was kind of going for.
So yeah, also with these, we have scalability settings inside, or device profiles inside config files. Do we have to change anything in those to enable this? I guess that's my
no,
first
they're enabled by
question.
default.
Okay. So
But you could set R. There's a render setting for R dot max dynamic point lights. If you set that
Okay.
to 0, that will on those devices that have it. You could imagine matching your low end devices in your device profiles to be
right.
to have that console variable set to 0. If in that case the dynamic lights just won't show up, and then there won't be any performance
Now,
cost at all for them.
yeah, follow up on that. With some of those lower end devices, this is something that's enabled there, but it's just, of course, way more costly. Correct?
It is, yeah. It's going to work. It'll work on any device.
Okay. Cool.
Oh no, firewall.
I'm just building lighting.
Yeah, well, I think that's cool because I know a lot of people that, or myself included, I've worked in mobile with UE4, and some of the the 4S. If I'm making just a super simple game that's not really using any other rendering features or even hardly touching the CPU, but movable point lights were important to me for that game specifically. I could probably make those trade-offs other places and still enable it there. It's not something that is actually separated out of those.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to design your content, especially on mobile, looking at polygon counts and draw calls based on what you think your minimum spec is that you want to ship on. And I'm going to mention something about this in a little bit. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so the third thing we have is decals on mobile. And these are actually using the same rendering system we use on PC, which is a deferred decal. This basically means you render your scene and then you kind of render a box where your decal has to go, and it looks at the pixels that are inside and works out how far away they are and works out how to draw the decal on them. And that's cool because it means if your scene is really complicated or not very complicated, a flat surface or really complicated object, the cost to render the decal is the same. Whereas in UE3 land, we would have to re-render each of the objects using our forward shader.
Got it.
But unfortunately on mobile, because the mobile doesn't have enough memory for a G buffer and all this other stuff we do for our deferred rendering, it's not possible to do lighting for decals. So you can do modulated decals that basically multiplies the color of the that's already in the scene with the new color. So if you want to have a blood splatter, you could have a red, an area that's red in your texture that's red in the shape of that you want the shape of the decal, and black everywhere else. And when it multiplies, gray everywhere else, 50%. When it multiplies that against the scene, it will brighten or darken or colorize, basically.
More of that special game development sauce.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is kind of stuff we did in the past before we had a physically based renderer. And because UE4 it's all physically based, this is why this stuff hasn't worked on mobile up until now, because we've had to
find ways
slightly
to
slightly unphysical versions of it, and that makes the rendering team sad whenever I do that.
Well, it's funny too, because in looking at the release notes and some of the screens specifically for this feature, you see kind of magic effects on the ground, right? That would be unlit to begin with, right?
Sure, that's exactly what the request came in, people are wanting the players casting a spell, whatever, and you want to show that that's going on. So the typical way to do that is project a decal onto the ground. It's not a physical effect. It's it's
a magical
an addition
effect.
to the scene. A magical effect.
Yes.
Exactly. We have magical base rendering.
Magical base rendering. I'll tell Nick Penwarden to get on that for the next version of the engine.
At least the acronym for that will be less confusing, and people stop asking me if I work on beer all day. No, PBR, physical base rendering, not the beer.
Okay, a couple of new things also that are kind of hidden in the release notes. As you know, there are millions of different Android devices, and they all have different capabilities. Some of the GPUs, especially in like the Galaxy S6, was an example of this, which was high profile because it's a brand new device. Up until now, that device it did not have the feature we needed to enable high dynamic range rendering on it. This kind of floating point frame buffer, technical speak. It didn't have it. The device doesn't have that feature in the current version of Android. We hope we're working with the manufacturers to improve that in the future. But what that meant is we had to use this kind of fallback system for high dynamic range called Mosaic, which looked all right, but it didn't support any post-process, and Bloom didn't work. Had some resolution limitations. You couldn't go bigger than 1024 for some technical reasons. So that was a bit sucky to have that limitation on a device like the Galaxy S6. So we have a new encoding method. You don't have to do anything with it. It detects when it's needed and it uses it where it's possible. But all this means is Galaxy S6 is faster and has better rendering quality.
Great. And so regardless of if mobile HDR is flipped or not?
When mobile HDR is disabled, this doesn't come into play.
Got it.
So it's only important for games that are using HDR.
Got it. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's Galaxy S6. Have you been? I assume you've been working on those quite a bit. How's UE running on it?
It's running pretty well. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a powerful device. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
It's good, and it looks a lot better now that we have that encoding feature. And actually, that encoding mode is faster than HDR. We're considering, it's not in 4.9, but we're considering making that an option you can turn on your iPhone. So even though iPhone doesn't need it, if you want to ship on like a 4S as well as the 6, you could make the 4S, make the 4S run a little bit better by trading off real HDR with this kind of encoding mode.
Definitely, yeah. I know that there's still a lot of people that are using the 4S as their min spec, and they'll probably at the next refresh, phase it out. But there's still some developers out there, so that's good to know.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure 4S will be there for a little while. We did just phase out the 4, although 4.9 does still run on it. It's kind of that's another thing with the App Store is it's difficult to limit per device. You can only limit by iOS version.
Right.
And we support iOS 7, which is supported on the iPhone 4. But it's a bit difficult to build games that are scalable all the way down to such old devices. Although that's a great segue into my upcoming stuff that we're working on for 4.10. It's like we planned this almost.
Flip phone support. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you get my Sanyo?
We're gonna
going back to the 90s.
We're going to run on the Sidekick.
I had one of those one time.
I believe it.
Yeah, so one thing we're working on right now is I don't want to say scalability system because we already have a scalability system. We're having difficulty coming up with a great name for this thing, but it's a shader-based quality system. And anybody who's made a low-end game might know about a node we have in the material editor called the quality switch node, and that allows you to make kind of a cheaper version of your shader. What we're doing is we're taking that system that's already in the engine and we're making it on certain platforms. If you want to enable it, we can build low-quality shaders for all of your shaders, even if you don't do anything specific in your material. So what we intend, there are some options in the material like fully rough that disables all the specular and it makes it a lot faster to render on a mobile device. We're making So currently you can turn that on or you can turn it off on a per material basis, but we're going to give you the ability to, on some devices, disable all of the specular completely, but also have all the specular and the nice cube map based reflection capture based reflections on a high-end device. So it lets you have your iPhone 6 looking awesome and your iPhone 4S looking average, but not having to compromise the quality on the high end. So that system's going to come hopefully in 4.10.
Okay, great.
Yep. We're also doing some general usability improvements, especially on Android. Kind of, we want to make it so you press the launch button and it always works. It either always works or tells you what's wrong. Occasionally, at the moment, you got to look in your log and there'll be some obscure thing. Oh, I didn't compile it manually or whatever.
Right, right.
If you just want to jump back to the editor, I'll mention one other setting for mobile guys that I added for 4.9.
Alrighty. Where are we going?
Okay, so if you if you click on the drop-down arrow next to the Pi button, there's an advanced settings option there at the bottom. And there's a play on device option. Oh, I'm sorry, I tell a lie. Unfortunately, this feature was added after we branched for 4.9, so it's going to be in 4.10.
Or on GitHub.
Hype. 4.10 hype.
It's on GitHub. Anyway, it's a little minor thing currently, so maybe it doesn't affect content-only projects, but if you're doing anything with source code, you're probably going to be running the editor in debug build because it's quicker to compile and lets you find problems in your game code easily. But if you then launch on device, it kind of always does the same configuration as your editor, and that's a bit of a pain because usually you on device, you're not interested in attaching the debugger, and it's a lot slower to build and those kind of things. So those things are now made independent.
Oh, right on.
So there's an option there also to whether to compile your source code. If you did turn that on to always and then set your, with this new feature, set your device configuration always to development, then you can just press the launch button at any point and it'll make sure everything's compiled and it runs the quick version and it's a lot quicker.
That's
great.
Very
useful.
Yeah, because I know that a lot of times mobile development iteration is sometimes a bit slower than running on everything else, because deploying to device and getting everything up and running, especially when you're trying.
Although some console platforms are not that much better.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But
maybe for people used to PC development, right? For an indie guy or girl, used to development on PC, then trying to make a mobile game, that it's kind of a lot more frustrating trying to iterate than you'd have on PC.
Yeah, well, and really when it comes down just to performance, right? You make a tiny tweak, test on device. Almost there, tiny tweak, test on device. If you've got a way that you can set up your environment that allow you to debug one place and run in dev on the other, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So there's lots of small usability improvements we're making for 4. There's some in 4.9. There are more in 4.10. Just stuff. Basically, whenever I run into anything, I make a habit of opening a ticket for it, so we remember it rather than it's just, oh yeah, that sucks, but that kind of feeling. So
yay, thanks, Jack.
so having somebody actually concentrating on this platform, that is me. We're gonna get a lot of these small things fixed. Better crash debugging, that kind of stuff. My colleague Dimitri is working on. So you have your output log and console window in the editor. We now have he is on his machine. It's not yet committed, but it'll be available in 4.10. You have a console window on PC. You can type, and if you've got your Android device or your iOS device connected by cable, it will allow you to type console commands directly on the device.
Oh,
so you don't have to type on the tiny keyboard to enable stats or whatever. You can also see the log window also has the device's output within the editor as well, so you don't have to
That's fantastic.
attach some external tool.
Yeah.
So that's a big usability improvement. Further off, we're going to do stuff with packaging for shipping. So for these more complicated games, people want to have the smallest possible download size on the App Store or Google Play.
Mm-hmm.
But once you launch it, then you want to have some amount of content streaming in from a CDN, web server somewhere is deploying content. And you want to use that for dynamic patching and downloadable content and all those other things people want to do in kind of high-end games. And that's cool. And we actually have all of these features are all there in 4.8 and 4.9. They're just hard to get at because there's like, you run this command line tool for packaging, and you got to remember put the old version in this folder and the new version in this folder. And there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to be taken care of, and it's really hard to manage. So we're looking to improve that to make it a lot easier. I'm hoping to have a packaging option. Choose everything inside the package file, content on CDN with minimum download size, just in a set of options, and then have it package using that scheme that you've asked for.
Oh, that's great.
That's a bit further off. I don't know. I don't think that'll make it into 4.10, but that's where we're going with mobile. The devices are getting faster all the time, and it's going to be viable to make. Some of these things already have the power of an Xbox 360, so we can totally be making AAA style games. So we need to be able to support this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and writing that kind of on your own is kind of a bear. As someone who's has helped write one before for mobile, right? It's not anything that's close. So that's great if we can get that put together and make it where it's a little bit more straightforward to kind of figure out what you do and don't need in a core build versus what DLC looks like, right?
Yeah, and we have all these things here, and actually, like the launcher, when you use the UE4 launcher, it's actually coming from a CDN and downloading these same files that actually work on mobile. So that all of that system is there and works, and it's being, it's not like something we're building and we've never tested it. Our users are using it right now. So all of that stuff is proven to work. We just need to make it a bit more friendly to access it.
Cool. That's great.
Okay, that's about it for what's in the pipeline. But
great.
We can take mobile and foliage questions, landscape questions.
Yeah,
lots of really great info there. Thanks a lot, Jack. Before we hop into questions for you, I'm just going to go grab some of these that are specifically for me in here. I'm still giving out answer out badges. Yes, there's actually a thread that Alex hopped into to ask what you want him to say.
Yeah.
So if you could respond on that.
Oh, yeah, that's in the off-topic section. It's called Hey Chance.
From Michael Aller, of course.
Yes, because people were asking what kinds of new badges we might come up with, etc. And so if you look up the Hey Chance thread, then you'll see that we're having discussion. But throw into chat, too. Right now we like Answer Hub Guru. Sage is another word, maybe. Yeah. But we're just trying to come up with a nice badge name for the Answer Hub contributors that give a lot.
Yeah, something that really defines all you great contributors, helpers there. So
Karma Police,
help us out. Karma Police, nice.
Karma Police, yeah,
that's
good,
funny.
good
Actually,
reference.
That's kind of you at this point. You're the Karma Policeman.
Yeah.
Will 4.99 come out before 4.100? Probably. That's how software works.
That's how our version.
Someone is trolling us there, but that's.
I think that's just because once we have the 4.10, they're gonna have to start asking about 4.99. That's where it has to go.
We'll just keep adding nines, right? Remember what they said in school? 4.999 is the same as, it's actually 5, isn't it?
Yeah,
basically.
So, and one more thing in here. Can we get the slides video from Alan's level design workshop? I'm gonna see if I can follow up on that and see what I can find. So stay tuned. If I can get a hold of it, there's a section at the bottom of our website called resources. That's usually where we post every talk that we've given. That we're allowed to from shows like SIGGRAPH GDC, or even when we do our dev tours and stuff. So everything should be up there. I'm trying to get SIGGRAPHs up as soon as possible. And just real quick. Yeah, it looks like the rest of these are kind of for
me.
For you, yeah.
Okay. All right. There's a question here about whether distance fog is possible with non-HDR. So when you turn off mobile HDR, what that's really doing is it's saying, hey, we're not doing any post-processing. Here's the final output. We're going to just render straight to it. So there's not really any chance to do any post-processing or any other effects afterwards. It kind of defeats the purpose of that all the main benefits for performance that you get for turning off mobile HDR is that um, there's no extra copy going on inside, so you just render once to the device, and then that's what's shown to the screen. So there's no intrinsic way to enable fog, and we don't really have any plans for some non-HDR fog that's going to work with that. But this is the kind of thing that you can totally set up in your material. You can access the scene depth, and you could multiply, or I'm sorry, not multiply, you could add some kind of constant color, a gray color on top of the output color for your base color, and that would give you kind of a fake version of fog that's done in the material. And this is kind of it's basically re-implementing in the material editor what we would do in UE3 kind of time. In those days, we used to render the fog as we rendered the objects themselves. It's the same kind of thing.
Gotcha.
There's a question about social media integration, like Facebook challenges, those kind of things. Yeah, all of these things are on our radar. The platform team who work on this kind of stuff across, all of our different platforms are adding these things, where applicable in kind of ways that can be used on all platforms. You want Facebook challenges to work on your PC games as well as they do on mobile games. So yeah, there's a lot of that stuff in the works. I don't have any specifics, but send a feature request to Answer Hub and we'll get it in there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think the challenge there is making something that is robust enough or abstract enough that it works across multiple platforms, right? So we don't have an implementation for Steam that's different than a Steam game than we would for like an iOS game, right? It's this is your social integration piece.
Yeah. We also okay, so we have a web browser controller you can place in your PC game now using UMG and Slate called SWeb. And one of the things I've got on our to-do list is to make that work on mobile. iOS and Android also have their own built-in web browser widgets. So instead of us, putting all of Google Chrome into your Android game, or on iOS, that's not even allowed by App Store policy. So we're going to enable, the existing Slate widgets are going to work. Stuff that works on PC for web, when we add this, are going to work on mobile, but they're just going to use the native widgets on the devices. Same kind of thing. So I'm getting some complaints about black screen force quick on some Galaxy devices. We have fixed a bunch of these. Unfortunately, crash logging or crash debugging in 4.9 is still somewhat broken if the crash occurs in another thread. So some of the black screen stuff is just, it can't find some content or can't find some shader. It crashes, but the crash handler doesn't pick it up, so it just sits there with the black screen. So we're working on that as fast as we can. That's one of the guys in my office has been working on that this week. To fix that problem, there seems to be some kind of middleware interaction that's causing our crash handler to go a bit crazy. So we're not sure what's going on there, but we're going to sort it out. So if you have any specific instances, I don't know of any specific instances where we're getting black screen on devices with kind of known content. So if you have a project or a little sample that demonstrates this on a specific device, please post to Answer Hub. I'm in charge of mobile compatibility on Android, so I will make sure it gets addressed. We take that pretty seriously if it's a current device.
Cool.
We also have we have the problem that there are so many different Android devices which have different GPUs, and in fact some like Galaxy S5 or 4 devices in different regions have different GPUs. So even though they're called Galaxy S4 or 5, they're entirely different phones as far as their internals are. So that makes testing difficult. So yeah, please post a model number of your device as well if you have that kind of problem. Can you make a flashlight out of a spotlight? Okay, so we don't support dynamic spotlights, but you can do a line trace and then do a dynamic point light at the point. So provided, if you got a player with a spotlight item and they and they point the spotlight at a wall, what could happen in your game code is do a line trace, hit the wall, and then pull back a little bit and spawn a point light there, and that way you'll get kind of a projected light on the wall. It's not a real spotlight, but it does work.
Oh, so there's another one later in here too. That do we have plans to add that? Did you mention
dynamic spotlights?
Yeah.
It just expands the permutations of the shaders, and I think that's kind of infeasible because of the amount of extra.
Yeah.
That will push the package size up. So we have to worry about the case of one spotlight and 3 point lights, or 2 spotlights and 2 point lights. So it just gets more complicated to deal with. I don't have any plans to do that. I think in the future we're going to have more mobile devices that are capable of the full shader model 4, which is this is the Android extension pack 3.1 and OpenGL ES 3.1. We did a demo. I don't know if you remember the Rivalry demo, which was done on an NVIDIA Tegra tablet. It's a mobile device, but it was running the full UE4 pipeline. I'm expecting in the next 1 to 2 years there'll be a lot more phones that are capable of that, and then the need for some of these kind of hacky versions of dynamic lights, etc., will go away.
Cool. Let's see.
Okay, there's a question about texture clamping versus wrapping. He's asked on Answer Hub, but it has not been assigned to me, so I didn't know about it. I don't know. I'll have to look at that. So
yeah, if
Mr. User, whoever posted that, please, call me out and somebody can assign that to me, and I'll look at it.
Yeah, if you guys throw it in the chat, I'll jump in and assign it to him right now, and then we'll force him to answer you.
Sorry, Jack.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's a question about multi-touch and gestures. The question's not about gestures, but yes, I haven't really looked at the state of that. I'm not sure what's wrong with multi-touch or how well it works. I need to look at that, but that's something on my list for 4.10 to improve. And we also want gestures to work.
Yeah, and so I know
or to add to the gestures.
I know that one of our community guys, we had him on the stream one time, Jeff Lamarche, iOS programmer. He actually built a gesture recognizer, if you will, for iOS, and he's made it available on his GitHub. We had him on the community spotlight a couple weeks ago. So if you head back to that forum post that's got that, or watch one of the previous chats or previous Twitch streams.
This question might be specifically about, it says state, but it might be slate.
Okay.
There might be something specific to UMG or Slate that isn't working with kind of input passing for multi-touch. I'm not sure about that.
Got it.
That's a question for the Slate and UMG guys.
Gotcha.
Can 4.9 run on a Galaxy Tab 4, and will it ever? Just let me Google exactly what a Galaxy Tab 4 is. I mean, I know what it looks like, but what its internals are. Galaxy Tab 4.
Wait, you don't know everything, Jack?
What?
Yeah, Galaxy Tab 4 is a 10.1. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, that's the Samsung website. It doesn't tell me useful information like what's inside it. It is... It's a Marvel.
There it is.
I don't know what its GPU is. I need to find another website. Hang on.
Oh, I think I got the Answer Hub post. I am assigning you now.
Doing that thing when my mouth moves as I'm typing. Okay. This must be very obvious to the guys in chat.
Yes.
GPU.
Alex, tell us a joke.
God, no. You don't want to hear any of my jokes on the stream.
It's an Adreno. Okay. So the Galaxy Tab 4, it's a bit of a weird chipset, but it's an Adreno GPU it should run right now. If it doesn't, the reason it doesn't is because there's probably some minor thing in the driver that we need to work around, and the fact that I don't have one of these, or maybe headquarters QA department has one, so I'll have to get somebody to look at.
Got it.
First of all, do we have one of these things, and then
yeah, have you put Fortnite on it?
But so I'm afraid I don't know. But if you have one and you have problems with it, please let me know what goes wrong, and we'll work it out.
Oh, great. All right. It looks like we got time for just a couple more of these, Jack. So.
Sure. Should we do a couple of Foliage ones?
Yeah.
Sure. Knock them out.
So there was a question about the interactivity on the Foliage, saying, could we enable physics? So, chop a tree down and then have the tree bounce around. What you want to do in this case is, like we were talking about when we're making our blueprint there, is to hide the instance and then spawn a real static mesh in its place, and that real static mesh can have whatever destruction or any settings you want on it. So you would have no physics on, or you would have just basic collision physics on all of your forest, and then when you cut down a tree, you respond to the event for like take damage or whatever, hide the tree that's as a part of the instance static mesh, and then spawn a real actor with exactly the same scale, rotation, location, with the same mesh and the same material, and it's going to look exactly the same.
Yeah.
You can then, it's now fully dynamic. It needs to be fully dynamic because we're chopping it down. So the fact that it has dynamic lighting is desirable in this case, and then enable destruction or rigid body physics on that. So that was one of the points of that blueprint, is that you could set that kind of behavior in a general way in the blueprint. Mm-hmm. Look up the existing mesh type out of the instance static mesh component. Then you can make a real actor, assign the mesh type, assign the material, and then you just have this destructible foliage class. Any kind of mesh that you want to paint in your forest can have this same class, the same blueprint class, and it all works.
Yeah, and you again, just to reiterate on that, you'll have all that information based on that event, right? The location of where that piece was, and so you just use that to spawn it, right? You have
right.
Yep. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Will mobile dynamic lighting impact heat on the devices? Yeah, heat is something we're looking at a lot. The dynamic lighting is not an extra pass; it's just a little more complicated shader. So it'll have some impact on the heat. But it won't have a huge impact. Usually, a lot of the heat is generated by the amount of CPU work you're doing. GPUs are generally more efficient than CPUs on mobile. So if we had to do an extra rendering pass and like go through the list of items that need dynamic light and all this kind of extra work on the CPU side, there would be a much bigger impact. But the heat impact for dynamic lighting should be
fairly low.
It'll be there, but it won't halve your frame rate or halve the time your game is playable on the device.
Cool.
Okay. What else we got here?
Yeah, let's see if we can get one more.
What's the limit for mobile point lights? 4 is the current limit. There's not really any great reason for that. If you had source code, you could extend that. We think 4 is probably the limit you want for performance reasons anyway. Like I said, these are... Oh, and when I say 4, I mean the limit comes from the surface that it's hitting. So if you have 4 lights hitting this place over here and 4 lights some other part of the level over there, it doesn't matter. It's the amount of point lights shining on one particular object that's important.
Got it. All right. Yeah, I think we got time for one more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the short one.
Are there any short questions here? Video ads, will Unreal get them soon? Again, that's a question for platform team, but that is something that's on the radar. Yeah.
I can also speak to that as well. We have been working with some, analytics and advertisement providers. Since the source code's available, there are people that have been working on, packages and integration to existing ones. So you'll probably see more information about that soon. But yeah, I know that Mike from Prime 31's done some things. So yeah, there is support for it, and we do plan on improving it for sure. Cool. All right.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Jack, thank you so much for spending
Thank
the
you.
middle of your night.
Go get some
I'm gonna go
sleep,
back to bed
buddy.
now.
You
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
earned it.
I'm gonna go back to bed too, but I mean it's a completely different conversation there. But
Yeah, what's it like in the future of tomorrow? Oh my god.
yeah,
The future of tomorrow.
don't tell us what's coming. I want to read it later.
What are tomorrow's lottery numbers though? I do want to know.
No, that's
Yeah,
cheating.
Thursday wasn't any good. I would skip it if I were you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. Thanks, Alex, for kicking it. Thanks, Shelly, for all the rad camera work, and everybody for hanging out with us. Remember, next week we're going to be doing a training stream on Tuesday. Jeff should have the post up on that hopefully before the weekend, and we'll be back here on Thursday. And there's also some pretty exciting news heading your way next week, so definitely
To be vague.
keep
about
your
it.
eyes peeled. Yep, that's all I got. All
Yep.
right, we will see you next time. Thanks
Thanks again, Jack.
Okay, later, guys.
Later.